Hey everybody, Z Garcia here, and today I'm taking a look at the latest release in Unmatched. This is Battle of Legends Volume 2. In this big box release for Unmatched, you are going to get, much like in Battle of Legends Volume 1, 4 new characters. You have one new battlefield in this one, with a new special ability that goes with it. And, of course, you can mix and match this with all of the other Unmatched sets out there. So you can have, Achilles go up against anybody previously released. Do it however you want to. So the 4 characters here I'm going to be going over in a little more detail, showing you kind of what they do. What I will not be doing is teaching you how to play Unmatched. I feel like I've done that probably a few times, honestly. So if you want to see how this game works, how any of them work, then go ahead and check out one of the previous reviews we've done for Unmatched, any one of those, and you'll see what the system looks like, how the game works. Great dueling game, basically. In this, instead, I'm just going to be showing you the new battlefield and a look at the 4 characters included. Then we'll come back up here and I'll tell you what I think of the package overall. So here we've got the board in the game. It's a very simple board with one main, really interesting new feature, and that is that some of the spots on the board, if you are attacking into an adjacent spot, they show a symbol, like there. That means you have +1 power attacking into that space. So you'll see them everywhere. They're meant to represent elevated spaces shooting down into lower areas. Obviously, they do not work backwards, and they do not work if you're not adjacent to them. But for example, if you're standing at the top of this pillar here, you can shoot down at +1 into all 3 of these spaces here. Very cool board. The other side of the board, by the way, is the same layout with this new style of rings so that you can see more of the artwork. I actually am not a fan of this look, but the original look, which is on this side, is also included. So they give you both options. If you like the new, more minimalistic look, you can go with that. So that's the board. Very nice. Let's take a look at some of the characters and some of the cards they feature. So here we've got Achilles and his sidekick there. As you can see, it's an interesting idea with the sidekick because Achilles, when his sidekick Patroclus here dies, he's going to have to discard 2 random cards from your hand. But while that sidekick is dead, you add +2 to the value of all your attacks. And if you win combat, you draw a card. So he becomes super mad when the sidekick is dead. So he goes through a grieving period, right? And then becomes super angry and an absolute beast. And a lot of the cards will have to do with that idea. So they'll capitalize on that, right? Here after combat, if Patroclus is still is not defeated, still around, gain an action. We've got this one here. You may deal 2 damage to your sidekick. If you do, the value of this card is 5 instead. So you can try to push for killing him. And again, level up Achilles here. This one over here, again, it's a card for the sidekick. After combat, deal 2 damage to both fighters. So similar idea there. Over here, Achilles' heel, of course, has had to be in the deck. Defense card at 4. After combat, if you lost the combat, your opponent gains 1 action, but it's a really great defense. So there is that. You're risking giving your opponent an extra action with this fantastic defense. And this is a new kind of card that you are going to see in all 4 decks included in this set, okay? It's not a new kind of card. It's a new ability, really. The idea being, you are playing a normal combat right here, in this case called Test for Weakness. And after that combat at Strength 1, then this secondary combat down here is going to trigger. And it'll behave exactly the way a combat card would. So it's like you're attacking again. Now it's Strength 3. Even if your opponent moved out of range, it still attacks, okay? Next up, we've got Bloody Mary with a particularly crazy-looking miniature here. It's basically a broken mirror, and she's kind of coming out of both sides. There are hands poking out and arms and faces everywhere. It's pretty terrifying stuff. And then Bloody Mary has no sidekick. It's just Bloody Mary. Health of 16. The main idea here being the number 3. She's all about the number 3 because, again, you're supposed to say her name 3 times as she appears. So at the start of the turn, if you have exactly 3 cards in your hand, you're going to gain 1 bonus action, which would give you 3 actions. She has a move of 3. And then a few special cards in the deck. Several of them, if it is the 3rd action, they become better. So for example, this attack here, during combat, if this is your 3rd action this turn, the value of this card is 7 instead of 3. This one here, during combat, you can boost this attack, and also, if this is your 3rd action this turn, recover 3 health. During combat, your opponent has to discard 1 random card, add its boost value, and then after combat, if this is your 3rd card, draw a card. And then a few of these schemes, of course. This one, look at an opponent's hand, choose a card. They may discard it. If they don't, then their hero is going to take damage equal to the boost value of that card. And you're picking that card. So there's that one. You again give them tough choices. A lot of these decks in the game are going to be about tough choices for your opponent, for yourself. This broken glass one here, it says you may increase or decrease the value of this card by 1. And then after combat, if the value of this card matches your opponent, then you draw a card and hit them for 2. So you can go up against a 4 and say, okay, this is a 4 also. We push, then I hit you for 2 and draw a card. Next up, we've got Yananga here with 2 very interesting sidekicks. Both of these sidekicks, as you can tell, have a number 2, and that means they can take 1 hit and you flip them over, and then another hit would actually remove them. So they don't have life dials, but you can basically assume it's like they each have a life dial of 2. And her main ability here, the built-in ability, is that anytime she would take damage, she can assign it to these archers instead. So while her health is only 15, it's likely to stick around because she is divvying out that damage. We've got some cards here to talk about. So we've got this one here. Immediately, your opponent may discard a card. Again, a tough choice. If they don't, then you return a defeated archer to a space in your hero's zone. We've got this one, which is very simple. It costs you an action. It gives you 2 actions. That's it. It's also got a boost value of 3, which is very nice. We've got here the new abilities, the new type of card. It's simply a rain of arrows, followed immediately, this is a strength 3, by another one, a volley. So it hits you again. It's an attack of 3 twice in a row. And you have to defend against those individually if you choose to do so. Jaws of the Beast here during combat for each zone that the opposing fighter is in. This is going to be +1. That means if they are sitting in a spot that shares 3 colors, this is +3. Very interesting card. Going up against her, you need to be mindful of where you're standing, not just what you can reach or where you can go, but how many zones your space shares so that you don't fall prey to this card here. Here we've got another scheme. Move each of your fighters up to 2 spaces. Each of your fighters recovers 1 health. Draw 1 card. Lots of things on a single card there. And then over here after combat, you can move her up to 5 spaces. She may move through opposing fighters, and then you deal 1 damage to each opposing fighter that she moved through. That means if you're going up against someone who has a lot of sidekicks or multiple figures on the board, if you can reach them after this, you can pepper them with hits. And this is particularly interesting against some characters, one of which we're about to look at right now. So there you go. That's the figure. Very nice archer figure there. And some interesting gameplay as well, especially with these sidekicks. And then last in the pack, but actually my favorite character included, is Sun Wukong here. And his deal is that you have 3 units here, but they don't begin on the board. And they're not sidekicks. Not really. They're clones, okay? That's the idea. I mean, they behave like sidekicks, but they are supposed to be clones of you. So they're off the board. At the beginning of each of your turns, you can choose to take 1 hit and put out one of these in your zone. And you can move them around. You can attack. Every single card in this deck is an any card, meaning you can use any card to attack or defend yourself or any of your clones. That's how that works. And then he's got forms. So Ox form here is an attack of 7. Tremendous. But your opponent can boost their defense after they play it, assuming they played one. We've got here Tortoise form, which is the same thing but for defense. During combat, your opponent can boost their attack. We've got this Phoenix form, where you heal 1 health for each of your clones on the board. And then we've got this 72 transformations that lets you, after combat, recover one of those forms from your discard pile back into your hand. We've got here the new thing, which I really enjoy. It's after combat, it's a strength of 0 attack, but after combat, then you hit them with this ability called Tricked You. So, ideally, they're going to defend against this meaningless attack, be out of defense, or the best one, and then you hit them with the Tricked You. So there it is. Fantastic release. Yet another one for Unmatched. This game keeps going strong. This one is no exception. Let's break it down. Let's begin with the theme. Thumbs up for this one. 4 interesting and diverse characters that all play differently, that all have various styles, take you to different settings, different worlds. Realistic characters or historical characters, mythological characters. It's such a neat mix of ideas, and it works. These characters all share that one new idea in the decks, where one combat is over and it leads immediately to another combat right on the same card. They all have that. That's the main new trick, right, that the game has added to the decks. But it feels like it fits right into the other ones. These aren't suddenly like so much better because of that than the previous characters or anything. I think it fits very nicely, and thematically, I really do like what's on offer here. The aesthetics, fantastic. All of these games look good. The artwork is still spectacular. The miniatures have a nice wash on them. They look great. The plastic tokens for the sidekicks are great. No issues there. I really like the new battlefield. They have switched over from, they used to do sometimes 2 battlefields on the opposite side, so they've stopped doing that because I think the idea being just that there's not that many things you can change on a battlefield. And they've switched to doing this whole, having one side that has a full colored system for regions, and on the other side, then just the circles, right? With the little border signifying the color. I'm not a fan of that new look, but as long as they keep offering them featuring the previous look, then I'm happy, and I don't worry about the other side of the board, right? All right, replay value. On its own, this is giving you 4 characters that, like I say, play differently and are very engaging. All 4 of them I really enjoyed. But as an expansion to your previous collection of Unmatched, of course, it really opens the door. Every new one of these releases is going to have the number of matchups you can have increase exponentially, of course. So the replayability, the replay value right out of the box is good. Combine it with the previous stuff, and it's incredible. The game arc, lots of twists and turns along the game, much like the previous releases. So let me talk about that symbol on the board, the new idea, this idea of sort of high ground shooting into low ground or attacking into low ground. I think that's great. And this is probably one of my favorite boards. There's been a few other ones in the past that have tricky corners, that feature some sort of special ability that is, specific just to that board. But I like that this one is both engaging and powerful stuff, but so easy to understand. It's not something you need to decipher. It's not even something you need to play a lot to sort of clearly understand, right? It's bare-faced. It's right there. This is what it does. You will see it happen in the game. Not all the time. That wouldn't be interesting. But there are these spots on the map that if you can control them, they could turn out to be very powerful places to camp there and target your opponents from it. Of course, the opponent will know you want to be there, so they'll go somewhere else and shoot into those places, right? Sometimes they share a lot of colors, so you can be targeted from many different places. Very interesting stuff. Next up, we've got ease of play, and I'm very happy that the complexity in these characters has not suddenly increased. That it's suddenly so many new mechanisms and ideas and new card types. They have not done any of this. They haven't done anything particularly insane and out of the box, and yet the characters still feature new concepts. They behave and feel differently. For example, my favorite character in the set, the Sun Wukong, right? The very tricksy ape here. Or monkey, I guess. I don't know. I love the way the character plays and feels. That trickery, that mischievous quality to it is apparent. You will play through this deck and that will be clear to you. That's how he plays, that's what he does, that he forces the opponent to make interesting choices, offering them two things, both a little bit painful, but they have to decide for you, I love the fact that you can take the hit to put out the clone, so you're hurting yourself a little bit for, hopefully, better returns later. If your opponent would hit your clone for 3, you just saved yourself some hits, right? You paid 1, you would have taken 3, right? So I like the way that it manages to make you, the player, feel a different way. Some characters you feel powerful. Some characters you feel like you are haunting or stalking rather your prey, right? That's kind of a little bit how the Bloody Mary character feels. There's a card in there that lets you pop up right next to your opponent, for example, so you can disappear here and appear over here. I like that. I like that feeling. And yet again, complexity basically the same as every previous release. Really neat stuff. And then lastly, tactics, luck, strategy. I've kind of covered it already. It's good. It's engaging. I really like, one thing I like about this combination of characters is that one of them has a traditional sidekick, Achilles. It feels pretty much kind of what we've seen before, right? One main heroic figure, one sidekick. In this case, when that sidekick dies, several interesting things happen, but it's kind of what we've seen before. Then you've got one with no sidekick. We've seen that before. They're a little more rare, but we've seen that. Then one that has 2 sidekicks that actually have hit points. You can flip the token. Haven't seen that before. And then the Sun Wukong here with no sidekicks, really, clones of you, kind of like sidekicks, but you willingly kind of spit them out at a hit to your health. That's brand new. That's interesting and different. So really enjoy that. Overall, this is not my favorite release in Unmatched. That's still Cobble and Fog, I think, just because I really like those characters and I love the way that box feels so congruent. But it's up there. It's a great release. It's one that I would definitely recommend. If you've got Battle of Legends Volume 1, you kind of want to stick in a sandbox that feels samey. You don't want to get too crazy with your mixture, right? Like you don't want to have Bruce Lee, for example, fighting, something like this. Then you can just get this one and mix those two together. I would honestly just say get whatever interests you. I think this is a great release. Varied characters that feel different, have different vibes, and yet it mixes greatly with the previous stuff, and yet they're not more complicated. Wonderful stuff. So, again, for me, not quite as superb as Cobble and Fog, but still fantastic. This is going to get a strong 9 out of 10. That is a seal of excellence. This game right here, Unmatched, is excellent, and they keep coming out with fantastic additions to the entire ecosystem. So there you go, everybody. That's Battle of Legends Volume 2 for Unmatched. 9 out of 10 from me. Go pick yourself up a copy of this and enjoy the madness that comes about with the fighting here. My name is Garcia. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.